Alright, welcome back. So here I've got the first component of the Saleen's new exhaust setup. As you can see here, I've got the mid pipe laid out. It's an X pipe from UPR that I actually picked up quite a while back. It's stainless steel, full length, completely catless, designed for an 04 Cobra, since everything on the Saleen will basically be from the 04 Cobra. So this is the full-length X-pipe designed for the shorty style headers, which I'll be running. Car is going to be pretty low, so I don't want to deal with long tubes and all of that. I can always make a switch down the road if needed, but for now I'm going to stick with the shorty style headers. Initially UPR wasn't really my first choice, but I heard a few Cobras running the off-road UPR X-pipe with various combinations, and kind of compared them to other higher end brands, and to be honest, I was really impressed. The quality looks pretty nice. Welds are good. Not much more you can ask for, really. It also comes with the sensor extensions, which is awesome. The Saleen will be pretty low, and the exhaust on these things always gets scraped up. And I figured, why spend 2 to 3 times the cost if it's gonna sound as good and it's just gonna get scraped up anyway. Alright, so here's the rest of the setup that I'll be running on the Saleen. If it wasn't obvious, it's a Bassani catback. It actually is the stainless steel version, and it was actually local, which is awesome because it was super close to me and I was actually able to get it for a really good deal. Especially with COVID and all, I just feel I lucked out with having this thing pop up so close to me. I definitely wanted to buy the catback portion of the exhaust used, because it's something I would have to cut up or modify anyway to make it work with the Saleen center exhaust and the Cobra IRS. Maybe I'll put a picture in here just to give you guys an idea of the extension piece that I'd be looking to build off of this exhaust. So right off the hop, I won't be using these tips on here. Luckily on this setup they look like they're just clamped into place, so it'll be pretty easy to remove them without cutting anything. And I had a short list of brands that I wanted to go with if they ever popped up. Bassani was definitely on that list. So when this popped up locally, within a 10-minute drive, it was a done deal. So as you can see here, it's not perfect and it definitely shows some wear, but that's no problem. Firstly, the Saleen bumper hangs really low, basically covers the entire bottom end of the car. You probably won't see any of the exhaust poking through, other than the center exhaust tips. And second, like I said, the exhaust is actually stainless, so with a little bit of effort I can probably clean this up to make it look 100 times better than it does now, which you already know I'm going to do. Everything is going to be nice and refreshed underneath, so I can't just leave the exhaust all crusty. There's a 5% chance that you can see this exhaust from some obscure angle while driving. You already know I'm going to say it's worth the trouble of cleaning it up. Doesn't have to be perfect, just something more presentable than it is now. These are a pretty basic but really nice design, and while there's nothing wrong with these tips, for what I want to do, they're just way too long for the center exhaust setup to go with that Saleen rear bumper. So here are some of the grits of sandpaper I'll be using. I'm hoping to start with the 320 and see how it does, and then just gradually move up to the 2000 and then buff and polish. I do have some 180 and even 80 grit if it calls for it, but just remember, the lower you go, the deeper you're going to scratch the metal. And depending on how perfect you want to get it, it can take a very long time to get all those scratches out after each step to make it flawless. I've also got this nylon brush and some other wire wheels to try out on some of the tighter areas. So I can already see that these have been somewhat polished before, at least in the middle portion where you can see it from under the car. unlike the 03, 04 Cobras, where you can clearly see the middle portion of the pipes kind of hanging down. I see a lot of imperfections and some deep scratches on here, so it will take a lot to sand it all the way down to level it out. There's just way too much material to take off just to level the surface out. So I may just try to polish it up as is, as best as I can, and however it turns out, it turns out. Plus, if this car ever leaves the garage and gets to driving, they'll just get scratched up again in no time anyways. No big deal. So to start, I tried the 320, and honestly, I'm still seeing too many small pits and imperfections for my liking, so I'm just going to step down to a 180 and see what happens. Try to get these bend areas a little smoother and a little less textured. Well, here we are. Went from a 320 down to a 180, and now I'm down to 80, trying to get some of these rougher areas smoother. 80 is the absolute lowest I'm going to go, though, so it's only up from here. Alright, so here's the fun part. I just picked up this cheap buffer that I'm going to try out. I've also used a drill in the past to polish, and that worked out pretty well with some buffing pads or even the Mother's Powerball. I've got one of those laying around somewhere, so lots of options to try. We'll see what works best, and I'll give it a test run to just see where I'm at. Alright, so in some spots it's getting there, but there's a lot of spots that need quite a bit more work, like this bend and top half. I'm going to try and get some of this pitting out, and there's still quite a bit of haze from the scratches, so a little more work to do. Then I think I'll switch to the drill with some buff pads, because this just isn't the job for this little buffer. I know this video is a little repetitive, but on this second one, I think I'm going to modify my approach a little bit. I really like how the nylon brush cleans and scuffs up the stainless steel. I think I'm going to do the whole thing with that first, and then move to the 400 right away. So that actually turned out really nice, pretty clean, just from the nylon brush. It's almost like a semi-machined, semi-polished look. Definitely something to consider if you want to, clean up an old exhaust, but don't really want to spend all that time finishing everything with, 5 different stages of sandpaper. This could be a good option.